Hello, guys and girls. Welcome to episode 115 of the F.Reality Podcast. This is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can also catch the show live in VR using big screen TV. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, 12 midday in central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and on Spotify. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback during the show, please put them in the chat. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Now it's time for me to introduce you to the team. First up, this guy's back in VR from his holiday in the real world, refreshed and recharged. It's my Frisian friend. It's, of course, Nathie. How you doing, dude? You all right?
It feels like 84 years to me.
It does. You've aged.
Yeah. I know,
very
right?
specific, like 84, not 85, not 90,
No.
100, 84.
No. It feels like a while. So I've been on holiday for a week in Bali, and then when I came back, I was in Amsterdam for VR days. So yeah, it feels like things went super fast,
So you
but
kinda
still
had-
also slow at the same time because I haven't been on this show.
So you had a nice break and then you got straight back into work again with VR days.
Yeah, I challenged myself. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun. I tried all kinds of stuff, the Vario, the new Pimax, a treadmill. I bounced up and down on a unicorn and some other stuff. But I will talk about that next week. So stay tuned. But it's going to be very juicy. The Vario is one of the best VR headsets on the planet right now. It's pretty impressive. So it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to hearing your hands-on experience with those headsets. So yeah, like you said, we're going to be talking about those in its very own topic dedicated to that next week, because we've got a stacked show for you this week. But I'll get into that in a little bit. Next up, this is the only guy that I know that can turn a friendly gardening robot into an ultimate killing machine that would give the Terminator a run for its money. It's the one and only Rowdy guy. How you doing, man? You all right?
I'm doing all right. My gardening job is kind of over, but no, I'm doing perfectly fine. I'm now at my parents' place. So if people see a little bit of a change in scenes, because I went to visit my parents over the weekend. I haven't seen them in a while, so I thought I'd drop by and bring my laptop and chase them away because I need to do a podcast right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you might even get a cameo from Rowdy's dad, which has happened on previous episodes of the show.
Exactly. This time I told him make sure that you're still wearing your clothes when you come upstairs. So.
Exactly. So next up, this guy's been protecting his precious. I think he mistook what people meant about getting into Golem. It's VR streamer Kim Talk 5. How you doing, dude? You all right?
I love your intros, Mike. It's like my favorite bit of the show. Oh man, yeah, good week. Feels good. I don't know. I just like clocking VR stuff now. It just feels good. It was way too much. I mean, it's a good week when you're like, pushed back Asgard's Wrath, which I still haven't played. Then they're like, I'll play Stormland, and then my buddy's like, oh no, can't get into Revive, so we'll do that on Sunday, and then did Golem instead. So it's like, juggling with these juggernauts is not a bad thing. It's a really good time for VR right now.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have for sure. Yeah, for sure. Too much going on right now, but it can be a bit overwhelming for us as content creators. But it's a good problem to have for everyone else for sure. Yeah. So last but by no means least, myself, the host of the show, Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. We've got a packed show for you today. Some of the highlights include we have a release date for The Climb, which is coming to Oculus Quest. John Carmack steps down as CTO at Oculus to focus on AI. Halo Reach might be getting a virtual reality mod soon from Nibre.
Again?
Yes. Zim's going to give you the lowdown on the latest releases to look forward to next week. And then finally, we're going to be discussing our hands-on experience with the big hitter this week, and that is, of course, Stormland. But first up, let's find out what everyone's been up to and their highlight of the week this week. And of course, Nathie's first. So is there something you want to highlight that you've been up to, maybe at VR days, or something you've played since you've been back?
Yeah, sure. I was talking about this unicorn, right? And
I'm intrigued about this. Yeah, please.
Yes.
Tell me more.
So there was this man with a small demo at VR days, And I was like, this is interesting. And there was a camera crew. They were standing next to his booth because they were looking for someone to try it for as like a background to interview him. And you know, it's nice to see a product actually getting used while someone is talking about it. So I was like, hey, I can try it if you want. So I put on this merge headset, you know, where you slide your phone in. It's pretty much like a wearable thing. It's the purple headset.
It's like a Google Cardboard, but a fancy one.
Yeah, I think it's called merge.
Yeah, I know which one you mean.
And so there was this fluffy unicorn. It was a bouncy ball. You could sit on it, and I had to hold like his ears, I think. And in VR, I was riding a horse, not a unicorn at all. So I don't know what was that all about. But hey, okay, sure, right? From the outside, it looked funny though, like on a unicorn. And I had to race. So every time I bounced up and down, I went faster and faster. And when I jumped with the whole ball, then I would jump over these obstacles. And he didn't know me, and he said like, "Hey, don't go so fast. Take it easy because you know you can get motion sick." I was like, "Here we go. Like, I'm gonna see if I can beat the score of everyone today." And then I took it off, and then this camera crew was like in my face. They're like, "So what did you think about this?" And I was kind of like, "This is just like one of the best things I've ever tried." And it's like, "Yeah, would you do it again?" So I'm like, "Yeah, I want this at home. I want to like, where can I buy this?" And I was just a little sarcastic in that sense. But they, like the guy who made it was like, yeah. He was like super happy that I was like plugging his stuff. And then someone told me that I was from this YouTube channel, and he was even happier. But but it was an amazing show. Like VR Days is this, you know, B2B place where you have indies showing off some games like VR Giants, for example. It's a great game. I think it's going to come out next year. But also all kinds of, you know, new things that people came up with. And that's great to see. And something else I should maybe also talk about is that I did a talk about also our like show, our podcast.
I saw that.
Yeah, we were like on the big screen, and I was like talking in this theater. There were around like I think like 200-300 people. Wow. So I was talking about, you know, what is it like to make content on YouTube and how does it work, stuff like that. So it was amazing to, you know, get some time to actually talk about what, you know, we do and how we promote VR. So I think that was fun. And I also met one person who's actually watching our podcast.
Oh, wow.
And he it was cool that he brought his dad to VR Days. I think he was 82. And he said like, yeah, I have a Quest, and we play Wreck of Fury together. So they were actually also playing because they were living far away from each other. So they used the Quest to communicate. Awesome. So that proves that you can never be too old for a Quest. Maybe you need some help to get in there. But that's so freaking awesome.
That kills me a little bit because my parents are not gamer people, and because my dad's in Ireland and we kind of see eye to eye on quite a bit. I've always had this dream that like, because he was a big tennis player, it was like Wreck of Fury, let's play together. So you just told me the story of like someone else enjoying the thing that I wish I had. Oh man.
That's so nice, though. That's so cool, and especially to meet people that have listened to the show and enjoyed the show as well at VR Days is really nice as well. But definitely looking forward to hearing more about your experience at VR Days on next week's show.
I already gave you the best scoop about the unicorn. So.
Well. You know,
I saw the video and it kind of looked like you were humping like a dead unicorn or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't willing. It was like just laying there. Be like,
it looked like something else.
When will it stop?
Yeah.
I want to shout at my screen and go like, "Stop it, Nathie! It's already dead."
the only thing that would have made it better if you was wearing your unicorn outfit that you have.
Oh, you know? Yes. Unicornception. Yeah, no, I get where you're going with this.
Not over the top at all, Mike. Jesus.
But yeah, that's a cool little experience. So let's pass it over to Rowdy next and find out what your sort of highlight of the week has been this week, dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure that we're going to talk about Stormlands a little bit later on as well, so I'm not gonna mention that right now. But I definitely played a lot of that. But then also I jumped back into Asgard's Wrath, and I actually got now to the first like big boss fight where you had to take on a god in your god form. And I think that was just an epic experience. I'm not going to spoil anything about like the experience itself, but I do feel like that they've done a whole lot of that part right, which I didn't expect to be so cool. Just the mechanics of how it plays out. There's actually like you have smaller boss fights where you fight them as a human, and you have the big boss fights where you fight them as a god. And I think that both of them are very, very well done, and they can actually get quite hard as well, especially the human boss fights, because I didn't manage to pick up that shield that everyone was raving about. So I had to play the entire campaign without a shield, which was kind of hard. But all in all, I think that game is really, I mean, I've sunk now maybe 4 to 6 hours in it, I think, in total. I mean, in terms of general gameplay, not like the bits that I record, but it's a very, very solid title still. And with the patches and like the updates that they're doing now to iron out like the bugs that are still in there, I think it's becoming an even better experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. And interestingly, I saw some of your gameplay clips, like the funny clips you had made, particularly fighting the sort of mini boss with the 2 heads. And that's actually where I'm stuck right now. I can't actually beat him. That's kind of where I last left.
It's very hard. Also because the way you need to beat him is not being told to you. So
exactly.
You fight him, but the way you need to beat him is kind of, you need to figure that out to yourself. And it took me like I think 6 to 7 tries up until I figured out what I actually had to do. Yeah. Especially because your companions go like, yay, he's beaten. It's like, oh, yay. And all of a sudden he stands up and like beats me to the ground. I'm like, you said he was beaten. Why did you say? Yeah, it's a fun game.
But also, by the way, like I didn't get that shield that you're talking about either. So I have no idea.
Like what it's a side quest apparently that you need to do in order to get the shield. Because like that's one of the things that I didn't really like about my gameplay, because the first shield you get, they go like, oh, this is from like this legendary warrior, and you can like it was called the Unbreakable or something like that, or the Wall of, I don't know what it is. And I got that shield, and literally like 3 enemies later, that shield went like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, oh crap, I just destroyed this shield, and I was like from this like highly important person. But yeah, it is a side quest where you actually get like that unbreakable shield. So
right, noted. Maybe I have to go back and go and get that before facing off with this dude again, because he totally kicked my butt a few times. But yeah, awesome, man. I'm definitely hyped for jumping back into Asgard's Wrath as well.
Yeah, you should, especially because the big boss fight that comes after the little boss fight, it's very intense and it's very well done. Like very, very well done.
Cool. Nice. Now you got me excited to go back. Okay, what about you then, Zim? What you been up to this week, dude?
I'll mention 2 things because they're both kind of quick. Well, the quick one is last Sunday we did a race in the Assetto course, and that game just holds up so well. And one of the things that I've noticed is that like with my hardware not changing, whatever they're doing with the Rift itself, the game is slowly performing better and better, and I'm sure that's because of tuning that they're doing to make the processing that's necessary for VR more and more lightweight. I had that about a year ago, where I was very surprised at what a 1060 and stuff like that could do, or even a 570. I could run the Rift on pretty comfortably, and I was like, wow, that's pretty low tech. So I had a great couple of races, and now I'm fired back, and I'm like, I'm definitely going back into Dirt Rally at some point soon, because they've released some new content as well. But I guess the highlight of the week that's most notable is Golem, because it kind of came out of nowhere. I know you mentioned it last week that it was launching, but it's like there wasn't much fanfare in advance of this after like a nearly 5-year wait for the title to drop. And
5-year wait.
It's insane to think that like this game has had almost, it feels like almost no media coverage up to the point that it's then available. That was the number one comment I was getting while streaming it, was like, shit, this is out? Like, what? No one told me. And I like to give my impressions of the game. They made some first off, like the first kind of hour and a half, which I got through, was pretty solid. It's kind of a slower moving game. So if you like games like I was a big fan of a 2D game called Dear Esther, which is basically a walking simulator. You walk around some pretty rooms and stuff. It's 2 hours long at the end. You're like, okay, that was just visual poetry. If you don't mind that kind of thing, then the first part of Golem, I think you're going to be totally grand with. It's not that slow, but they borrow from a few other titles. And I think the most weird aspect of the game is the fact that, I don't know who decided that this was a good idea, but their kind of imaginative movement system is basically you're standing on a Segway. Now, it's done well. I did it standing. You're supposed to do it seated. But, you basically hold the controller, you're holding down a button, and you lean forward, ever so slightly. It's very subtle. And it actually cautions if you're leaning too far forward, because I guess they don't want you toppling over while you're playing. And that's only one of, 3 movement methods. You can use a joystick on a gamepad if you want as well. This is a PlayStation VR title, for those who don't know Golem. And the whole concept of the game is really cool. So you basically control a big stone golem through basically a kind of a pseudo magic virtual reality headset. So you can control a little doll, you can control a big golem. It's this kind of out of body experience. But the thing that really struck me was a couple of things. The introduction was really, really strong. It actually kind of took my breath away, and that doesn't usually happen on PlayStation graphics, where it's shit, that's really cool. I won't say anything about the opening, but the opening definitely.
We have Water UK in the chat saying it was an hour before he killed anything.
Yeah, well, it's not. This is the thing. There's a lot of story at the forefront, but I like that. I like the character. I think you'd like it, Rowdy, because the characters are super strong and interesting. The animations, in terms of the facial animations, the body's moving around. One girl's hair is like dreadlocks, and having grown up in the Caribbean, the dreadlock animation. I mean, this is a silly little detail, but they got dreadlocks right. It's not easy to animate dreadlocks, is my opinion. But so all that stuff coupled together, I was pretty happy with the game until a hardy veteran of VR of the various movement types found himself feeling quite ill about an hour 20, hour 30 in the game because of that movement mechanism. And the combat gets a little bit like After the Fall. Until You Fall. And I think the game is weakening an hour and a half in. And I'm going to play more of it because it's intriguing to me and the story's good. But I kind of feel like it's kind of gone from here to starting to go downhill now. And if it doesn't recover, it'll be a tough one to recommend at 35 quid.
As you said, the first hour, that's what they started with when they were, fully focusing on making this game, and it has been delayed so many times. That's what you see a lot with games that didn't come out at launch. Exactly. This was a launch title for PSVR that they just had to finish it to a certain degree. So the more you play,
how far have you played it then?
No, I want to play it. I'm very curious. I kind of want to learn from this game in terms of okay, what happens when you, let's say, delay a game so many times? Because usually when you delay a game so many times, it's not going to live up to the standard anymore. I think there is this quote from Miyamoto. I don't know, but he's saying something if it's a delayed game, then it could be a bad game forever. But in this case, you kind of get the vibes there's something up with this game. Why has it been delayed so many times?
Why is it so quiet? Why is it? Yeah, and I actually would say that's what my inner child is now singing to me. It's kind of saying, warning, warning. But I actually think that, and I really hope that they can, week one patch in the Skyrim movement mechanism, because holding a button and going forward at a uniform pace is comfortable, and it's worked in other titles. This kind of idea of the Segway motion, where it's analog movement, right? I think is what gets your stomach. And I don't know why, because it makes playing through an otherwise quite pretty title with some decent bits a little bit of a chore. And that's the part that I hope they just listen to and fix.
The movement you're describing is something like when this game was supposed to come out, they were still experimenting with different locomotion options. So it kind of makes sense that this is what you get, but it seems like it didn't catch up with time.
Yeah. One other point is the demo I played at PAX, which when I played it at PAX, it was kind of like just 2 segments carved out of the game. I've now played over both of those segments. And it's like, oh, that's how it all makes sense. So the demo really didn't do a good job of telling you what the whole game was about. And those segments are about the same quality. Now, I have noticed up to where I am now, and this is surprising for a PSVR, especially through Sony's quality assessment, at an hour and a half, I'm getting graphical artifacts only appearing like in the right eye. You know that, like if there's shadows and it only appears in one eye instead of both? It's like that. Some kind of ray tracing problem for shadows that are being portrayed in the game. So aside from the problems, I've actually had a very positive experience with the game up to this point. I just feel like I'm on a slippery slope, but I feel like it's probably not going to get better. I think because I've heard the combat is quite difficult, coupled with the movement system and the kind of sensitivity. I tried to put my wife into it. She didn't even last 3 minutes before she was feeling SimSick. That's how aggressive the system is.
Also, really quickly in between, apparently there are some problems over at Big Screen with the stream not going through, but we do not have any control over that. I just wanted to let the people in the chat know that, since the Twitch stream is up, and normally I believe that Big Screen is taking the stream from there. So there's nothing we can do about that.
Okay.
Good shout. Good shout.
Anyways, we do have some people who played games as well in the chat. We have Wado UK. He played many hours of VR this week. He played Stormland, GTA 5, Red Dead in Farpax, Brave Soul, Borderlands 2, X-Plane 11, and Asgard's Wrath. Oh yeah!
Wow, he played all of that stuff. Wow.
The heavyweight games.
You know the man. He never stops. He never gives up. You know.
That's true.
And then we have Angel 3. He only played Pistol Whip briefly, and he got to work on his skills. And then Dave the Psycho had a good rundown with games this week. He played Pistol Whip as well. He loves the soundtracks on it. I think they're great. Last Labyrinth, he says that it's overpriced in his opinion. And The Curious Tale of the Stolen Pets, another great title from Fast Travel Games. Yeah, they have been on a roll. Gotta catch them.
Got a little stolen pet here right now.
I got one too. A squirrel.
It's funny that they sent like different animals to everybody. That's really smart, by the way. From a marketing perspective, don't send everyone the same stuff. Like send them different bits. That's an awesome little. What's he named? You gotta have a name.
So I put him out on Twitter and said like, what should I call him? And Andreas Juliusson, obviously the lead developer from Fast Travel Games, said I should call him Spike because he's like a spiky triceratops and kind of rhymes with Mike. So this is
Mike and Spike.
Mike and Spike.
I said trike. I'm a little bit disappointed you didn't go with my.
Yeah, it was a rubbish suggestion, Rowdy.
There's one game there that's mentioned by Dave. I just have to mention, which is Tokyo Chronos, which is like a very, very, very long animated anime VR kind of experience. And Dave, I've seen you here week after week, so thanks for continuing to watch the show. But you're a better man than I. I tried my best with that game, and man, 2.5 hours in, I think my soul left my body. So if you're into that kind of stuff, definitely Dave seems to be the kind of dude to be able to give you a positive, well-balanced review on those games. But yeah, Tokyo Chronos is that's a tough one for me.
I'm glad that games like that are finding their audience somewhere.
Exactly.
Every game always has an audience.
Yeah.
So we have two more. We have Meatball Saucy. He played a few missions in Star Trek Bridge Crew during the week. And last night he played Stormland with his son. He said Stormlands actually. Stormlands. You know that one? So hey, but playing Stormland with your son, it's the best thing ever. I mean, I don't have kids, but if I was playing Stormland with my kid, like, yeah, that's some good stuff. And then we have Brian Foster, who also played Stormland, and Mike's favorite game at this moment, Jedi Fallen Order.
Ooh, how does he know? How does he know?
You've been playing that too.
I have been. I've been enjoying it very much. But it's a pancake game.
We should still have a guilty section, right? We should have a guilty section at like the end of the podcast, which is like, what's the 2D stuff you played this week? You know?
Yeah, especially after Rowdy did his favorite game last week, his Control. So I don't want to talk about a pancake game.
It's gonna devolve. Like this is gonna devolve so quickly. We gotta.
Yes, plus PD is watching too, and you know what happens if you talk about pancake stuff when PD is around.
Don't want to upset him.
No,
definitely not. So the highlight of my week, something that I want to talk about, is Wolves in the Walls. And this was recommended by Zim on last week's show. And I think he was like dead on the money with this one. Like really, really great experience. So let me sort of explain what it is. It's a cinematic story. It's made by Fable Studio along with Oculus Studios. And it's about just over half an hour long, would you say?
Yeah. 40 minutes is what it took me.
Yeah. So you take the role of an imaginary friend of an 8-year-old girl called Lucy, who believes there's wolves in the walls. And I won't give it any more away than that. But it's kind of got this quality to it that's akin to like a Pixar film. But you're in it. You're a part of it. And you also actually have an active role to play. You're not just a bystander that's watching this all play out. But they did some really clever things in this experience that I've never seen in VR in anything else before. And things like, just to give a small example, like there's a section where she takes your hand and she pulls you through the scenes, and you travel through the scenes holding a hand, and it doesn't make you motion sick. It's just a very great transition from one scene to the next, and it's just handled really, really well.
It feels human. This is the thing I meant. Last week I said there was like this extra spice, and sometimes you don't know what it is. Like they nail something and you're like, this is slightly better. It's like I had cheesecake and then I had the better cheesecake. And for some reason, there's some ingredient in there that they worked out, and that better cheesecake just wins it by 20%. And that's what I feel in this title. It's just like, you can't ignore something like this, so play it, please.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, if you love VR, or even if you're a developer working on a VR title, you really owe it to yourself to check this out. Because I'm sure, if you're just a consumer, you're going to be impressed with it. But if you're a developer, it may inspire you to implement maybe some of these clever little mechanics in a project that you're working on. But when you experience like something like this, it really sort of makes you understand how VR can shape immersive cinema in the future. And this is something that Kent Bai was talking about a lot when he was on the show, immersive cinema in VR and how magical it is. And now having played this, I'm even more excited for getting more content like this next week with Tender Claws with the Under Presents, which I'm sure we're going to announce it in the releases. Because after Kent Bai tried it, he was really praising it on the show. And now I just can't wait to check it out myself. But yeah, there's no reason not to try out Wolves in the Wall. It's free on the Oculus Store for Rift and Rift S, and it actually earned a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Innovation in Interactive Media. So don't take just our word on the fact that it's great. Other people have thought it's great as well.
I love your shout out for devs there, Mike. I just want to say that because I think that's really important for us actually to all think about that in future. Because like one of the things that we talked about probably off show was that oftentimes you find developers don't play a lot of games, and it's kind of it's fair, right? Like if you're a computer scientist and you're typing away in the lab or whatever, you go home, you're probably not going to do the same thing because you got to rest, right? And so that makes total sense. But for us, like, and something I'm going to definitely note in future is like, what are the bits that someone did right? Like again, a movement mechanic, something portrayed, something that made us feel closer and more interactive in the scene, like this one. But that's not kind of a slant that we've really focused on, I think, over the last couple of years, and I think it's a really important one to call out. So
yeah, definitely, I think it's a good idea. Yeah, and for the future, just one last thing about Wolves in the Walls is that I would recommend watching it or experiencing it in a swivel chair, as there's a lot of things going on around you in 360. So if you can rotate easily in a chair, it's going to make it a much more enjoyable experience.
Do you have any recommendations for a swivel chair?
No.
Then before swivel chair video from Mike. Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
You sure? Okay.
No.
Can you imagine his loft like filled with swivel chairs of like all the various types?
It's a little in-house joke from Nathie. He's digging at me. It's because I said that he behaves like a child that's drunk 3 Red Bulls on last week's show. That's what he's getting little digs in at me. That's what he's doing.
I'm finally back from, Mixer is gone. I'm finally back on this show. It's time to get Mike back, with all the jokes he made about me. He trolled me too much.
The Mixer one was the best.
I know.
But I gotta say, he came back in style. I mean, I love his Katy Perry jacket.
Right. Oh yeah, and Zim was like, hey, maybe Nathie burned himself, in the sun. And actually, if you look at my hands, you see this?
Oh wow! Oh shit! You actually did. I was gonna say like face wise, I was like, this guy, he doesn't have an ounce of tan on him. But yeah, those hands. Show us again. Go on.
Wow.
Audio listeners, it looks like Nathie put. He covered every part of his body except for like a round circle on both of the outside of his hands. And decided to tan those to 380 degrees in the oven. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
so before we get into the news this week, we have a reason to celebrate. And that's because this very fine podcast hit 3,000 subscribers on YouTube this week. So congratulations, guys. Well done.
That's very nice.
Thanks to everyone following.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I just wanted to thank everyone that watches the show live on YouTube, who come and join us in the chat as well and get involved in the discussion. It's so awesome being able to interact with you all, every week, ask you what you've been playing, allow you to ask us some questions as well, like we did on last week's show, which was really fun, by the way. And of course, I want to thank everyone else that supports us by watching the show on big screen. Sadly, obviously, it's not working this week, but who usually watch the show with us in big screen. And for those that listen to the audio version as well, we appreciate every single one of you, and we'll continue delivering the best podcast we possibly can. If you have any feedback, by the way, or if you want to send us a question maybe that we can read out during the show, send it via email. You can contact us at contact@F.Reality.tv.
I think we're actually one of the biggest podcasts now in the VR industry on the YouTube platform for sure, and that's a huge honor.
Yeah.
Definitely that focuses on gaming as a main sort of thread. Obviously Kent has a legit podcast as well, who was on the previous episode of the show, but it's more about the philosophy behind the VR as a medium and the business side of things. But definitely I'm super happy how the show has gone so far. So we'll continue delivering the show as long as you guys and girls keep watching and listening to it. So thanks again for the 3,000K.
Wait, 3,000K. No, not quite. That's 300,000. We're not there yet.
3,000. Correction.
Can we celebrate?
3,010 subscribers.
300,000, 10,970,000.
Those 10 should not be forgotten. Those 10 above the 3,000. Sorry.
But YouTube doesn't show them anymore. So
no, but I could see it. So those other 10 people, Mike didn't say, thank you to you, but special thanks.
The three
to
of
you
us care. The three of us care. He's just cold-hearted.
That's true.
There you go.
So, the first bit of news this week is interesting, as we were literally talking about this game on last week's show, and that is The Climb on Oculus Quest. Because on last week's show, we were talking about Climby being released on SideQuest, and since then, we've heard that it's very popular actually on SideQuest, with the side questing community, and it's doing very well on that platform. And we were kind of asking the question on last week's show, like, whatever happened to The Climb? It was announced a year ago at Oculus Connect 5, and we hadn't heard anything about it since then. Well, lo and behold, this week, the team at Crytek posted on their Facebook page an image of The Climb with the Quest with the words "coming soon." And shortly after that, a brand new trailer for The Climb on Oculus Quest released, showing how the game will actually look on the standalone headset. And I have to say, it looks pretty great, right?
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
So washed out textures. No, I'm just kidding. It does look good.
For a Quest game, like we're playing the trailer right now. So if you're watching this, you'll be able to see it. But I guess a lot of this time that they've been spending is probably optimizing the game and squeezing all the possible performance they can out of the Quest's Snapdragon processor, a bit like what the devs did with Red Matter, to try and make it as best looking as they possibly can. But if you're not familiar with The Climb, if you only just got into VR now on the Quest, your first VR headset, you kind of missed The Climb because it was like a launch title for the original Rift. The Climb launched and the touch controllers hadn't even released then. You had to play it with an Xbox One controller. And it was one of the first really great games that wasn't like a simulator, because was it Valkyrie kind of launched at the time, Dirt Rally. And for me at the time, I used to get quite motion sick, so I couldn't handle those games. So The Climb was one of those kind of games I ended up playing quite a bit.
I thought it was pretty good with a controller.
It was.
It wasn't bad.
And I think as well, The Climb is deceivingly hard. It's actually way more challenging than it looks. And
It's a proper climbing game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even the mechanics that they're using with you need to choke your hands in order to get some more grip and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is if you're into climbing, I think that's a really cool game to play.
Especially because it has these unknown events from time to time where you gotta react fast and think about where you want to go. Otherwise, you just simply die. And the ghosting, I thought the ghosting mode was amazing, where you could challenge yourself by just constantly, speeding up your climbing
on your time. And similarly, so the idea of racing a friend in real time is something that I really would want to do. So if that's the feature that they've shown, because I kind of played it early on. They released some other features, and I never got a chance to play with a friend. I thought that at the time it was only ghosting, like you're racing your friend's ghost. But I think now it's real time, as far as I can tell from the trailer and what I've read, real time racing against friends in the Quest, which would be great because already Quest is a fantastic platform for.
I don't think it's real time. I think it is just like a time, and it shows their route. Yeah.
Talking about the climb on Quest, as far as I know, it's just the same content as well. It's not that they added anything new to it. Although, what I do want to say is that if they can pull off this, then please, Robinson the Journey on Quest.
That would be good. That would be good.
Yeah. Just to quickly sort of describe like the climbing mechanics in this game, if you're not familiar with it, like you actually have to grip the trigger, but like at a half pull, because the more you pull on the triggers, which is your grip, your stamina reduces, which is represented on your sort of wristband, and then when that depletes, you basically your hand lets go automatically and you fall, and like Nathie says, you die. So basically, you kind of got to balance your grip by half pulling the trigger, which is quite hard to do when you're in a stressful situation.
It is,
and you think you're gonna fall.
I think so. So although a game like this, I was just thinking about it. This is the kind of game that would really not work. I don't know if there's a revive for HTC Cosmos, but it wouldn't work because they've got a digital trigger for grip, right?
Yeah. Although I think they use the triggers, they use the actual trigger button. They don't use the grip for some reason. I don't know why.
I forgot they got smattering of buttons. Okay,
you probably could play it on Revive with the Index or whatever headset. But yeah, it's a really fun game, and I think people are going to be very excited for it. The game is coming out on Quest on the 3rd of December, so not long to wait now either. No word on whether it's going to be cross-buy just yet, though. So
yeah, it's very interesting that this just comes out of nowhere. I don't think it's true that they have been working on it all time, because they also had other games to work on. And I heard that Crytek as a company became a lot smaller. For the last few.
I hope they do cross-buy, and only because the first game was bloody expensive. It was like 50 quid or something. I remember it was not a cheap buy. And it's fair, for what you were getting at the time. I mean, it's a really good game, and I think a lot of people didn't play it through to conclusion. And as I don't know if Mike or Rowdy said it, but it gets hard later. Like some of the later stages in that game are like real heart pumping.
And the difficulty, like you can go for the hardest difficulty and not see anymore how much stamina you actually burn, and you just have to hope that you're pulling the trigger in the right, part of the.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, like, what kind of price should they put on this game for Quest? I would say 20, 15, 20.
I think $20-$30 is a reasonable price for it. But I think really it was like the highlight of VR because it was so graphically amazing. Like the vistas and the detail was incredible.
It came out in the golden age of VR. It was like 2016
for launch, basically, or essentially close to it. I find this to be one of the most contentious announcements of 2019, though. I don't know if you're. I just think that. There was a good question raised on Twitter. I don't remember who posted it, but it's like, okay, so that's interesting. There's a climbing game dropping on Quest. Is this what's holding back all the other climbing games like Climby and Windlands and stuff? Like, is it push our IP rather than everyone else's? And if that's the case, I mean, there's some great games like Don't Look Down, which is an indie title. I met the guys in Boston, played it, loved that. I've played their build. I've played Windlands. You can now as a free demo, you can go play Climby on SideQuest. It's really strange to see those games get told no, and then see this come out. And my only thought can be, it's protecting their IP, which they poured tons of money into, I'm sure.
They did say that they would look at games to see if there was any reason why it should be released on the store, because if there's something else that already exists that is better, for example. That was kind of like one of their criteria. So you could be hitting the nail on the head there, but it's definitely a question that we raised on last week's show.
This is what we have also been talking about at Oculus Connect, like, what gets approved, what doesn't, and why, and stuff like that.
Bizarre.
And it kind of the store suffers from that, especially now, like around this time. And I'm like, Windlands is a different genre of a climbing game.
Totally
it's not only a climbing game, it's much more than that. And that's the same with Don't Look Down. It's not like the climb at all.
No.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair at all. and it only hurts the store and the people that invested into a Quest. There can be more. I mean, they also have like 3 zombie games right now on the Quest, right? There are so many genres that have more than one.
There's enough appetite there, and the thing is, I think it would drive consumer spending. I really do, because like if you're into climby stuff or you like that body motion, it's like just give me 5 of those types of games. I mean, we proved it earlier when we were calling out, Tokyo Chronos and games like that, because that's a very specific genre, and that's on Quest. You know what I mean? It's just it's a really odd one for me, and I wanted to make sure people were thinking about it.
Oculus should, or Facebook in this case, should just offer themselves as like, hey, if you are a developer, you have an awesome game, like we want to take it and we want to put it on our store, instead of like, we have Crytek with the climb, so let's just sorry, you can't, because then
at the same time, I think with the Quest, like they still want to deliver like this like safe, like controlled experience. I mean, I'm not saying that Windlands or Don't Look Down or To the Top are not great experience. I think they're great, but I think that we don't know the specific reason for why those specific games are not being taken. We think it has to do with locomotion. I think that is a fair assumption. I think that's a fair assumption.
Have you ever fallen in the climb? It is pretty daunting falling in the climb.
That's what I'm saying. We don't know if that is actually the reason, because there are intense games, and I mean, we're going to talk about Stormlands later on, but there are some intense mechanics into that as well.
And to be fair, right? To be fair to Oculus Facebook gatekeepers, have we seen Sony's quality assurance checklist publicly? I don't think so, because actually that's intellectual property for the company. How do they protect and define what hits their store? So to be fair to them, I don't think we should necessarily say you have to put that public. But I hope that developers, it's clear to them, because I don't think it has been made clear.
I totally agree with what Rowdy says, but the problem I've seen, especially this year with the Quest coming out, is that a lot of developers don't even know why Facebook denied their game. So where's the communication at then? If they don't know, does Facebook then know, right? So and Windlands and those games have great comfort options. So that's all I'm gonna say.
One last thing before we move on the climb.
You gotta put some more.
That if you're going to play this game, make sure that people around you, know that you're playing, because there is a mechanic in this game where you have to chalk up your hands, where you have to make a specific action with your hand that could look a bit strange to other people around you.
Can you?
You want to demonstrate here, Mike?
Yeah, no, because
just close your eyes.
The show will be demonetized.
It's true.
Oh yeah, okay.
Just saying. Right. That is the climb. Got everyone really hyped, riled up.
And a little triggered too.
A little triggered, exactly. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it so early on in the show, but
first thing, boom. Like.
Okay. This might trigger you even more. Next up, some good news and some bad news.
Oh, no.
The good news is that this week, Oculus CTO John Carmack was awarded with a Lifetime Achievement Award for his work in VR by the VR Awards, which is, without question, totally deserved. They were responsible for a lot of the work and optimization that went into the Quest. So without them, I don't think the Quest would be particularly as good as it is right now. So
his push made mobile happen, to be fair. Like, he was the mobile guru.
Exactly.
And he revived my Oculus Go as well, that died.
Yeah, good man.
We've got to thank him for that as well.
Yes.
The bad news is, literally a day after that, Carmack announced that he'll be stepping down as Chief Technical Officer at Oculus.
The best part is, though, you tweeted about this, right, Mike?
I know.
You were like, I hope he stays forever working on mobile VR. And he's like, nope, I'm done. I'm out of here.
I think Mike gave him ideas.
I'm blaming you.
I jinxed it. I tweeted his speech. I said, it was so humble of John to give this little speech, and I hope he never leaves VR. Next day he leaves VR. It's like, what have I done? But yeah, so he's going to be stepping down as Chief Technical Officer at Oculus to take more of a consulting role at Oculus. And this is so he can focus on artificial general intelligence himself. Like, he's taking on this monumental task himself, and he's going to be working from home more. So although he still is technically still working for Oculus, it's more of a consulting role than sort of actively being there every day.
So who's going to replace him then?
Me? No.
I'm sure there's plenty of clever people that he was working with that will still continue his good work. But it is a bit of a sad day, I have to say, because I think Michael Abresh, if I'm not wrong, is the last person standing. Yeah, Oculus now, since who's been there since the beginning anyway. But the thing about Carmack is, if you ever watch any of his speeches or if you watch his acceptance speech, he's always very grounded on his view of current VR. During his keynotes at Oculus Connect, and even during his acceptance speech for the VR award, he said that he's often grumpy because he isn't satisfied with the pace of progress in VR. So it's always great to sort of see him just talk like that, very sort of grounded in a sort of level-headed way, which is really nice. So it's
he's of course in a position to do that as well. There aren't that many people that can be this is kind of what the status is.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like, his also one of the things that he talked about was, he's kind of like, before I get too old, I need to do something impactful in this corner. And I can totally understand that, because if there was one, if you had a list of people who you would be willing to clone, for the betterment of human forward progression, I think John Carmack is top of my list. So, he's the things he's done. If you haven't checked out the background, and I'd just say maybe Joe Rogan's podcast interview with him, all the background that he's done. This guy, aside from being humble and clearly a genius, I love the fact that the guy's got balls. He's a bit of a rules breaker at the same time as being this kind of super geek when it comes to this technology. And he also games. It's just, can you get a better kind of icon? Can we just get maybe a stuffed animal of him that I can just hug at night, maybe?
It's some people are so eager to learn everything, and he's one of those people.
I also think even though he's going to a more consulting role, if you saw him at Oculus Connect, even after his keynote, he was still helping all of the developers out, testing out games. I think this is far more like a passion for him, that it's actually considered for him to be work. So I think even at this at this stage, he'll likely still have some connections to VR or developers that know him, that send him something to try out. I do see him as that he would stay involved in the entire VR scene. Maybe not as he used to, but still in a way that would probably be very substantial. I don't know. So, but more in his own spare time.
If you ever watch the keynote from Oculus Connect, he was actually cut short this year, which you could see he was kind of annoyed about. And they were like, right, we're going to end it there. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to carry on this keynote outside in the hallway. And it's just amazing that someone like that would just do that. No one else would do that. So I love the guy. It's a real shame. But
this man also invented the queue lines at Oculus Connect, where developers are waiting to present their demo to him, and he's just checking them all out.
He should start a YouTube channel.
He should.
Reviewing VR content.
So in the chat, Dave the Psycho says he's a real homie.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was a real homie.
But
in VR space.
There's a but here, right? Mike's like, good news, bad news, right? There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good, right? We already said, award, bad, leaving, right? Ugly, Skynet.
Yeah.
He's working on standalone artificial intelligence. If anyone's going to destroy the world, that's going to be Carmack. He made the Cacodemon in Doom and 3D render. You know where we're going, right? This is not a happy ride.
But Sim, listen, we have Skynet, but then we also have John Carmack robots running around, so...
It's coming. I'm telling you, the sky's falling.
You can have your personal John Carmack at home.
What? Have you seen Millennium Man? It doesn't turn out well. It doesn't.
Oh.
No.
It's just going to bring us doom in real life.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's actually... That might be true.
So although it's sad that he's leaving, he's not leaving completely, but I'm sure whatever he goes on to do, he's going to do some amazing things there as well.
He's always welcome at our show as well.
Always.
Of course.
Next up, some news to cheer you back up again after the sad news about John Carmack. And this is about VR dev and modder Nibre, who was responsible for the Alien Isolation VR mod, which I know a lot of us was a big fan of. he teased via Twitter this week that he's been working on a VR mod for Halo Reach, which is pretty awesome.
Sorry, Mike, help me out here. Halo Reach is like where in the series? I have no idea. Is that a new
Rowdy
game, an old
probably
game?
know more than I do about Halo. I don't know if you know.
Halo
Rowdy.
Reach like the 4th or 5th game?
Yeah,
We'll ask the chat because clearly none of us.
none of us
God. Not gamers. We're just play chess all the time.
Yeah. But Nibre, he posted their clips on Twitter showing head tracking, working in a scene that looks like a multiplayer map with an energy sword. And the second clip shows a first-person view of a Spartan sitting in the driver's seat of a Warthog.
Okay.
Badass, like Humvee type vehicles. But according to Road to VR, Nibre's work is being done on a public beta release of the game, which was already out and sort of in the wild for testing. I think the full Halo Reach game will be coming to PC in December. I kind of got the impression that Rowdy was a big Halo fan. Like you're just a general Halo fan, not like a
I was a Halo fan because I got an Xbox in the beginning, the first Xbox. So I played the first Halo and I played the second Halo, and after that they went to Xbox 360 after that so I didn't have the money to buy one of those as well, so I kind of dropped out there already. Also in the chat they're saying that it was Halo Reach was before Master Chief, so it's kind of like the prequel, because indeed there's multiple Spartans, so it's before that. But yeah, I was a big Halo fan back in those days, also because I think the story, especially in the first one, was particularly great. I did still follow the third one, but I haven't ever since really gotten deep into it, although I would love to see another Halo game within a virtual reality, better than the one we've seen.
I'd like to see a reboot. Yeah, I'd like to see a VR reboot of the original Halo. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So this mod that this guy is working on, it's single player? Or is it multiplayer? Because you said multiplayers, you saw some examples that he already made, but that's multiplayer.
So it's just my impression that it's in a multiplayer map, but obviously Halo Reach is multiplayer as well. So I'd imagine we would likely get both if you
because
can get
Reach does have a campaign.
Yeah,
right?
story campaign and multiplayer. Yeah, exactly.
And this is a mod where you have motion control support as well, or is it like the GTA mod we have seen recently?
He hasn't shown that yet, so this is still really early days. He just wanted to kind of tease it out there, because as we know, he's still working on the Alien Isolation mod to this very day. It was actually recently featured by Up Is Not Jump. I don't know if you know that YouTube channel, Alien Isolation VR is a nightmare. So he did a video about that just recently, which got him a lot of attention. But he's still working on Alien Isolation and adding sort of full motion controls for VR support in there as well. So this is obviously a new project for him once he sort of reached the end of Alien Isolation. So I'm interested to see where this goes, because if he can do as good a job as he did with Alien Isolation with Halo Reach, then I think a lot of people, especially Halo fans, are going to be really happy with this one.
And I think the Alien Isolation one also didn't needed any farbacks software, and that's actually good because you need to pay a lot of money for farbacks. That's why the GTA one was so popular too. We were like, yay! I finally have a free mod that I can try.
The install was really light. I remember it was if it was kilobytes or megabytes, but it was small to be able to get Alien Isolation working. And a lot of people love that. And I feel bad for Nibre now, because Twitter's going to get bombed with oh, so you did Alien, now you're doing Halo, and my favorite game, you're going to do that next. It's that's what's going to be the internet's impression. If this thing lands, X equals X plus 1 means your game can be in VR.
And obviously, if you can't wait for this mod, you can always play Halo Recruit, which was on Microsoft Store.
It's an exclusive, right?
It was terrible. It was so bad.
Remind us, what was bad about it?
Everything.
It was a gallery shooter, I think.
It was, yeah. It was terrible.
It's been a while. It's been like this meme of on this show of Halo has been lasting for almost 2 years, I think.
Even though none of us know anything about it.
We never tried. Did any of you guys tried it?
I did.
Yeah. You remember? Mike is the one who
said to try
it, and then
and Viper tried it as well.
Binned it after that.
We should have had Tyrion Wood on the show. He's such a huge,
he's a big fan.
Halo fan. Yeah.
When it comes out, we should.
He was actually calling you out, Nathie, for not tagging him in the post.
Yeah, he was angry. Angry fanboy man. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Bless his heart. So yeah, if you're a fan of Halo, you've got that to be excited about coming. So make sure you follow Nibre on Twitter for all the latest updates on that. The next bit of news is about Pimax. So if, like me, you originally backed the Pimax 5K or Pimax 8K headsets in a full bundle, and like me, wondering where your controllers and base stations are after almost 2 years of waiting.
2 years, yeah, it's been 2.
Yeah. Well, now you can choose to upgrade your pledge. And instead of waiting any longer for the Pimax sword controllers and base stations, you can upgrade to the Valve Index controllers and base stations instead.
What?
Now,
wait, what? They're reselling Index? What? Okay.
Yeah, for a price though. For a price.
What?
So normally to buy the Index controllers and base stations, it would cost you $279 for the Index controllers and $149 for the base station. So that's a total of $428.
That's a lot of monies.
A lot of monies. Pimax are offering to upgrade to the Index bundle controllers and base stations for $179, which I actually think is a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
I think that's a good deal.
Do you still get the Pimax controllers then later as well, or no?
No, you forfeit them.
So what did you pay in terms of the incremental, or was that part of the bundle no matter what bundle you chose?
Okay, so if I remember rightly, I paid about 700 quid, I think, for the Pimax 8K. Then I dropped down to the 5K plus, so I've got some extra bits coming. And that included the controllers and base stations. And now this week, I paid the additional $179 to get the Index controllers and base stations because, you know, I've got an Index anyway. So to have them as a little backup or sell them separately, which I could do and easily recoup that money back.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. So it kind of undercuts it. I'm curious though. Is there any module or anything needed, or is it's running on a Lighthouse system anyway, right? So
yeah, exactly. And the thing is, you know, there was many other options out there because what they wanted to do, they wanted backers to upgrade to the brand new headsets, like which are called the Pimax 8K Plus Vision and the 8K X Vision. But I wasn't interested in doing that, so I just thought, well, I'll get these controllers now instead of waiting.
But on the other side, like as you said, it's been 2 years, and then they have a new offer for you. Okay, I think for some it feels or sounds a little tricky because you're like they didn't really deliver that much after 2 years, and then you put even more money into this company, and you don't even know if they're actually. No, if they're actually gonna give you those controllers, you don't know.
It's like Tesla.
Don't know.
It's like Tesla selling you a car without the wheels, and then 2 years later saying you can buy our brand new model that's a lot more expensive, but it comes with the wheels this time, so you'll be happy.
Yeah. So
you wouldn't do it.
I found it even stranger that they're selling other companies' controllers. I find that really strange.
Well, now on their website, they're offering these brand new headsets, the Vision ones. I think Nathie actually got to try them at VR Days, right?
Yeah.
So you can tell us a little bit about your experience, but they're actually bundling them with Index controllers on their website now. So they must have a deal with Valve.
Yeah, but
is that legal? Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, is it even legal to resell?
Deal with Valve?
In that way?
They don't work with Valve.
Yeah, that's what I like.
They don't.
This seems dodgy.
Well,
so just before we ask Nathie about his experience with it, so I bought them for $179. So I'll keep you all updated when.
Mike, you're brave. Mike, you're a very brave man.
I wouldn't trust them. I'm sorry, I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's like, you know, the thing is they made new headsets. It's like they almost forgot about what they promised at the start. Now they let people buy in even deeper into their company. It's like because in the end, they can show these numbers of all these people that backed 2 years ago. It's like, they also bought the new one in a way.
It's weird though, isn't it? Like it's like a confidence erosion. Like they're saying our stuff isn't ready yet, or is it that they're getting pinged with so many people who are like, "You've got my money, deliver."
I do trust them enough on them to deliver a product since they've done that before.
Sure.
I do think that they're gonna send those. I'm not doubting if Mike is going to get their knuckle controllers, but I do find it a weird decision in selling someone else's controllers because that's basically saying our controllers are not good enough at the moment. They're not ready at the moment. We can't fulfill the promise that we initially promised in the delivered time frame. So I do. It seems like it's a little bit of like let us try to do this in order to keep the people, that we're doing something.
It's a quick solution in a way.
I think it's reducing the fire. Honestly, I think it's firefighting because
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because you must have people who are impatient, who are like, hang on, and getting irritated and angry at this point. Directed at their customer service.
I do think that they're gonna deliver on that promise on the delivering the Valve Knuckles. I'm not doubting that.
Don't have a
choice.
But
I do find it a weird decision. To selling someone else's controllers.
I don't think the fires that have started, throughout the years have really impacted them in that sense. They have a very loyal fan base, and the people that backed it seem to have accepted how they work now, and they're part, like they're in for the ride. It feels like I will be. Maybe I'm not going to make any promises yet, but they offered me to come to their office once again in January, because I will be in China for 2 weeks. I might go, and then I will definitely ask them about this kind of stuff, and then I can give you, well, at least their answer on that, and you can do whatever you want with that. But yeah, when I, like as Mike said, I tried their new headsets. And for me, it felt like, I wasn't that interested in their new stuff, because I want you, Pimax in this case, deliver what you promised to your backers. And then you have new stuff again. It's great. It's awesome to see them improving their headsets, but it doesn't take away that you should actually be,
Yeah, but at the same time, we need to remember that Pimax is compared to Valve, compared to HTC Vive, compared to Oculus, is a smaller company. It's a smaller company that it's delivering a headset, and the only way that they can compete with Oculus and with HTC and all of those is to try and stay one step ahead of them. And they don't have the money or the resources to invest in the R&D that, for example, Oculus can. That's Facebook money. No, but that's
you don't know. They could, but it's cheaper to maybe.
They can't.
How do you know?
They can't compete with. No, they can't compete.
It's not a poor. Rowdy, this Pimax is not a poor company at all.
Oh no, but it has nothing to do with money.
They are, of course, not on the Facebook level, but it's not like they can't.
The amount of R&D that Facebook has put in, it's just not even a matter of money. It's a matter of time. Like, how long has Facebook been working on the Oculus headset before they released it? Look at when the Rift Asgard released. That's a years and years of development.
But that's because this company has a different business model.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
They're
trying to bring out a headset that is a little bit better than the ones that are out there, but that comes at a certain risk.
Like if you let's say Voodoo, for example, he owns a couple of Pimaxes, and if you put those Pimaxes all next to each other, you can see that. You can see, he has like 5 or 6 or 7, I don't know, or 10. But if you put the first few next to each other, you can, for example, see the changes in the quality of plastic, where the first one broke pretty quickly. Then the second one had some problems where if you would put your hand on it, the screen would go out because it became static or something. And then the next one was fine. So you constantly see them, delivering new ones.
Because Oculus does it as well, but they release them as development kits and not commercially ready. Pimax doesn't have the money or the resources to do that.
Pimax is also
make them commercially available.
Yeah, but Pimax is also not really for consumers. It's more for prosumers or VR enthusiasts that feel very, very adventurous, I would say. But yeah, I did try the headsets, and they're heading into the right direction. They were better than what I tried before. So that's all I can say. And the quality of like the material and stuff like that was better too. But I'm not gonna say too much about this, because we all know that when you finally have a Pimax at home and you use it for a month or two, it might turn out different. We had Terrell Wood who got a Pimax, and after a week, his screen didn't turn on anymore. So you never know what these units do. And of course, at a show floor, and that's not just Pimax, that's with Vario and all those others, they have the best place to demo it, and it works amazingly. And then the moment you have it at home, it's a different story. So I'm just gonna kind of hold off for now. I want to try some more. Maybe at their office they do have their controllers ready to go. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I'm just gonna hold off. I just want to get it at home. If they, send one to me or Mike or you guys, that's cool. Yeah, I'm just a little bit more skeptical nowadays of Pimax. But they as Rowdy also said, they are constantly they are showing that they want to improve. But yeah, it's going slow. They're pretty slow in what they do, I feel like.
But I'm happy that they offer this as an option, the index controllers. And then you don't have to wait anymore. I think.
But I still it's still the question. I want you to get them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Wait, a question, Mike. So when you originally went for Pimax, I think one of the reasons was, as you do, is going after different hardware. So why tap out now? I'm curious in the decision. What caused you to say, okay, now's a good time? Was it maybe I'm never going to get this controller, or what?
It's just I don't have faith in them to deliver a quality product. Is ultimately my stance on it, and I know other people hold different opinions, but that's my opinion. Certainly from my personal experience with Pimax, they delivered a headset that I couldn't use basically because of my low IPD. So it is partly down to the shape of my head. The lenses of the actual headset, which are huge, sit on the bridge of my nose, so I can't use the headset.
That is noticeable.
It also had distortion on the edges, which I understand isn't a problem for everyone, but it was a problem for me. So in that sense, and having seen the way that they've treated the people that back them and not being completely clear with their communication, I just don't have any faith in them. So I'd rather just get a product that I know works, even though the index controllers themselves have had their own issues with the
so you're mitigating risk with it, and as you said, you're an index owner and user, so doesn't hurt to get kind of what is essentially a cheaper pair of controllers.
I do salute them for giving us insights on what a large field of view means, and it's very interesting, because since I tried that, it's like this is actually what I want in the near future.
Really,
but not as this started as what Mike said, and a different model and a different design, things like that.
My personal preference would still be more focus on comfortability, more compact, wireless, maybe. I think those still have a little bit of a priority on the stuff that, for example,
over field of view. You're saying
over field of view, and
yeah, of course.
I think that field of view is still more important than resolution, though. So if we take in steps like that, for me, it's first comfortability, then
just
compact.
Comfortability is not a word.
But that's the thing when you
comfortability. I'll say it again.
No, you won't say it again.
I want comfortability, comfortability, compactness, over fieldedness, and then I want also resolutionness.
Yeah.
Wow.
All the stuff that Rowdy mentioned was all in the the video of Pimax when they pitched this whole idea of back our product. So all of what Rowdy has been saying is still something they need to deliver on, especially the comfort side of things.
I think there are people out there that love the Pimax, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions and what they like, their preferences. And but the thing is, ultimately, you need a badass computer to run these headsets.
That's true.
These new ones even more so, because they're 8K.
Yeah. And I think if you see one at a show, and you get the opportunity to demo one, give it a try. I mean, with every headset, do try it. The same with this new Pimax headset. I was like, I should just check it out. Maybe it is better. And in the end, it was definitely an improvement. And they did have a actual head strap. Something like the Vive Pro had. It's just that I want to have this product in my hands and want to see that this head strap lasts for at least a month or two or three. It's just that I can't hype people up with just 5 minutes demo at a Pimax floor. It's just not. I don't think that's right.
And one last thing I want to say before we move on is that, my experience with the Pimax is that I spent more time tweaking with it and playing around with the settings than I did actually playing games with it. And that's something that I've actually want more of in VR, that quick accessibility, like what the Quest offers now.
Yeah.
Like even with the Rift S
exactly.
sometimes, and sometimes you fire up and the Rift S isn't connected properly or something like that. It tells you to reset Oculus. It winds me up because with the Quest it's so quick and easy.
But at the same time, I understand that if you want to be like a prosumer,
I get
that you
that.
need to be prepared to tinker around a little bit in order to get the best quality.
You're probably
but
also
I'm the
gonna
same. Like if I, especially as a content creator, if you need to make content and if you spend, for example, you have 3 or 4 hours to do a recording, and of that 3 or 4 hours, you spend 1 hour trying to get like the best kind of thing, or need to tinker around. For me, then I'm pissed off after the 1 hour, and you'll notice in the rest 3 hours that I'm pissed off in my recording.
But that's exactly it. So just to throw my hat into the ring, I only got to try Kaz and Cherry's 5K Plus, and the thing that I think we haven't mentioned is like PyTool and the universality. I'll throw in my own words too, of support for different titles with Pimax. Like for me, I just want a headset that's ubiquitous and just doesn't challenge me on a day-to-day basis with content. I think we're all tinkerers, with setup. None of us are scared of putting a couple hours into something to make it work, but there is a comfort edge there, and I think that's the problem at the moment for me.
Well, Pimax is not, as far as I know, in my opinion, it's not a consumer product. Again, it's for VR enthusiasts who feel
Index have done it
adventurous.
though. Like, you know what I mean? Like what they were trying to do initially was like beat to the punch FOV. Like just go get an Index and get a beefy PC and you've got your FOV there.
It's still not as wide, but
but it's consistent and it's beautiful. Like lovely headset.
That's true.
Wow, I didn't think
Again,
that was going to go
nice
in that
one,
direction.
Mike.
Wow.
There you go.
Some great topics of choice this week to get everyone upset, right? Final topic is about Minecraft Earth.
No one's going to be upset here. No.
A little bit more lighthearted. Everyone can just chill now.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything.
It's now available in the US, alongside the UK, New Zealand, Iceland, Australia, Mexico, Sweden, South Korea, and the Philippines.
Strictly the beta. Yeah.
Nice. Moving on to the next subject.
So, before we move on,
Oh, sorry.
there's some more to say.
Okay.
If you don't know what Minecraft Earth is, it's essentially an augmented reality version of Minecraft, which is available on iOS and Android phones and tablets. And the idea is that you can walk around your local area, build a little structure. Rowdy's got some structures in his mind that he wants to build in his local area. And if you happen to live near Rowdy, then you can go out with your phone.
But
and
you can see what he built.
Don't take out your phone then.
Can you
Don't
also
show your
climb?
parents like.
Can you also climb what he built?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't think that's
Nathie's
allowed.
again thinking about humping dead unicorns.
Yeah.
Well, something bigger, actually.
So, oh my god. So Zim has been checking this out, right? You've been checking this out, Zim. You're like our resident Minecraft guru.
Yeah, so
What do you think of it?
Like, I'm a huge fan of Minecraft. I have been for years. I've played it on every platform I think it's been launched, except for maybe microwaves. And Minecraft Earth, I think last week I was like, what's the bloody point in playing this? Because I was playing it for a while and I got up to maybe a level 4 character or something. And I was like, the trouble I had last week, which I wanted to come back and kind of correct on, was scale. So I finally worked out, there's no instructions or tutorial for this. There's 2 buttons. One says build, one has a little play button. You do the build, you get a small scale object you can place in your home on a table, etc. Dinner table size, let's say. And you get your little environment, and then all the little blocks that you've picked up through clicking on chests, and you can just sit at home and do this, by the way. You don't have to go out on adventures or anything. And then you get build plates, which is like a little template, like the base of a Lego set. And you can build on that. And so that's like Minecraft and AR. And actually that's done great. My kids and I had a great time with that. You can put little chickens. You actually get little copies of yourself that walk around, live in the house, all that kind of thing. That stuff's pretty good. Like the AR is solid. It burns your phone like nothing else, but that's another matter. The cool thing that I wanted to talk about, which is there, and I've kind of gone through from being like really low on the game to being really positive about it to kind of being low again, or at least meh, because the in-house stuff that if you're just sitting on your ass, you can collect some blocks, you can level up, you can get build plates, you can make a little house or whatever you want to make, torture dungeon for Pikachu. All that stuff works, right? And the AR is done well. And actually, for being a beta, very stable. I found it wasn't so stable for about a week in the UK after they launched it, so I don't know how the US is now. went out and about, and that's stable again now. And there's these things that you can find are called adventures. You go along, and this is the cool part. So you'll have a flat plane on which there's either objects above or below or both, and you don't know what's going to be there. One of the things we found out venturing in the forest was you could hear zombies underneath. You open up the ground, there's zombies protecting like gold ore and stuff like that. And then we found, oh wait, I can't mine the gold ore because I need an iron pick and I haven't built that yet. So it's the same thing as Minecraft, that you have to work your way up tool set wise. So far, with several hundred blocks, I'm at like level 8 now, I've not hit a maximum inventory size. But the thing that I still am challenged by is limited on an 8x8 block or a 16x16 block build template. Like, I still don't see the reason. There hasn't been a fun game loop for me, aside from the AR, let me sit and play with my kids in this thing. And that was way more fun at home on a tabletop than it was out and about when you saw them kind of larger size, where each of the blocks are like, not a meter, but maybe half a meter in size. And I think that's probably where it sits best, but I really don't know why they've launched this in winter. It seems like bad timing. So I don't find it particularly fun. I think people should, if they're looking for a proper AR game, Pokemon Go was like not really AR. It was like pseudo AR, but a really infectious game. The Walking Dead is also really quite good, but again, not enough AR in it. This is the first game that I'd say there's enough of an AR element to it that if you got a newer like iPhone or Android, you want to play around with it, it's good for that. I just don't know if it's any fun.
So what's stopping someone like Rowdy surrounding your local town or village with phallic-shaped objects everywhere?
I've not seen it. So that's the aspect that I'm not seeing yet in the game, Mike. I've not seen an ability
near me
to sit in a particular location, an object that I've built that someone else can discover. I've not actually seen that. You can put your stuff there and through your phone look at it, and if someone's looking at your phone, they can see your build. But actually, you set it down, you pick it up again. It's not, as far as I can tell, it's not permanent. So chat, please tell me if you found that. But that's not the case. So it's rather like you're carrying around with you a Lego build plate. You can throw down at reasonable size at home, throw it down at a much larger size in the field.
Yeah, I guess they knew that someone like Rowdy would do something like that. Maybe they didn't go that far.
Damn it, they listen to this podcast.
I also think it makes sense that it comes out now because it's never winter in California.
True. It's cold here, though.
It is cold here, yes. There's been frost on the cars and that, so.
Yeah. So if you want to check out Minecraft Earth, you can. It's completely free, right, Zim? And it's available
free.
on both
you just have to
Android and iOS.
Yeah, you basically have to sign up. You get access to the beta. I think now it's pretty immediate. And if they've launched in the US,
sell all your personal data and then it's free.
Exactly.
To be honest, I just wish there was some fun game loop that I was like enjoying it. But like even the stuff that you find like, yay, I found another block of andesite. Oh, there's some more granite. There's some more blocks of wood. Now I can build stuff. So like it takes quite a lot of I've probably put 6 to 8 hours into it. And it's not been fun up to this point, really.
You'll never get those back.
This is very sad. I hear a broken man talk about the game he played.
I like, and to be fair, I love my Minecraft. I really like Minecraft. Even though I kind of burned out from it.
You look at his face. He's so disappointed.
I am disappointed.
It's like Minecraft. I like Minecraft, but this shit.
I actually think this is still an effect from Gadgeteer.
that was a sad story. That really was.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Okay, so that is all the news this week. Let's now pass it over to Zim for the releases for next week, because we've got some exciting ones for next week as well, right?
We may
like
have.
We say. It's like everything's ramping up. We're getting all these amazing games to play.
We got quite a few coming out, and a few things that you guys won't have heard of that I've got for you this week. So, 4 or 5 things to say, but I'm gonna try and keep it quick because we're running late on time. I can tell. So, first off, the Curious Tale of Swollen Pets.
Swollen Pets.
The Curious Tale of Swollen Pets. I had to say it because everyone's always had a fat cat.
Is that the X-rated version?
Swollen Pets. I don't even want to know what that is, Rowdy. So the Curious Tale of Stolen Pets on Oculus Quest landed on the 14th of November. Some of you guys have played it. Landed for £12 and $15. It's kind of this heartwarming tale, well narrated. well animated little worlds, and it's a puzzle game in the end. Mike, I think you talked about this a little bit last week, so I won't labor on it. But it's out. It's cute. I loved one comment I saw on Oculus Home. There was a dad who was like, not sure if he wanted to buy this, bought it kind of half for his daughter, and then ended up kind of playing through the game like, sorry, honey, daddy's got to play this now. So what do you guys have to say about this? I haven't played it yet.
It's beautiful. Like you said, the animation is great. The music in it is great as well. It's a charming little game. It is relatively short though, just over an hour. But if you want to play with your family members, there are multiple save slots. So if you are like that guy, that dad, you can blitz it yourself, and then your children can have their own save slot as well. So.
And it's the ideal time to bring it out as well, like Christmas is coming close, and like these kind of like games, like I think this is the right time for these kind of games, since people are stuck inside and they're looking for something to do.
And this is one of those games that you can actually give to your kids and let them have fun with, instead of having to constantly moderate it.
I would say it's wholesome.
Wow.
Wholesome. Heartwarming. Makes you cozy and warm.
Yes. Sorry,
I
pounded some dramatic music in the background there, because apparently when you full screen in Steam, it unmutes, irrespective of your choice earlier. Bad Steam, bad. All right, next game. This one's fun. All right, this is where the dramatic music came from. I'm gonna put this up there for our friends in the audience. So, mothers have it, politicians want it, and for just under 12 quid on Steam, you can finally buy it. Power, right?
Oh, I was about to say something completely else.
What did you think, Rowdy?
No,
Come on.
No, that's okay.
So exaggerated speed and jump, exaggerated destruction, and exaggerated multiplayer. I have no idea what this is all about. This I should. I'm right. This is the releases. So this game is called Power. It's a competitive online multiplayer shooter with a few tricks up its sleeve. From Atomic Lollipop, great name. For about 12 quid, released on the 15th of November. You have a procedural terrain with destructible environments, huge explosions, survival looting, kind of what you'd find in kind of like PUBG or something like that. And a 10% of the population who've waited years and years for this feature, it's finally here. A bloody left-handed protagonist. So if you're left-handed, this game's default position is lefty. I've never seen this. I've actually never seen this. So Power is probably the first VR title that I've seen with procedural destructible environments, which is pretty neat. And
the art style is cool. I like
left-hander.
I like how it looks.
Yeah, the kind of polygonal style. It caught my eye, and I just thought, that's all right.
So you have to play with the left controller as well, or not?
I have no idea.
Because in that case, if you have a Vive with Vive ones, then it doesn't matter. Then you can still play with your right hand.
It's just very very interesting that they, and my wife's a lefty. Good few friends of mine are lefties, and I always tell them that they're broken. But now you've got a game. So ladies, if you were waiting for a lefty out there, then this is your man. Power. Supporting all the PCVR headsets. So there you go.
Wow.
I thought you guys might not have heard of that one. No. So that's Power. Now, to a game that Kent Bai hyped us up on and clued us into last week. The Under Presents dropped their launch trailer, and it looks pretty svelte, is the word I would say. So definitely check this one out and go for the audio. The audio on this is amazing as well, audio listeners. So if you take a blend of immersive theater and virtual reality, you're enabled to step into a world where you interact with characters and other participants, merging live acting, scripted performances, and it centers on these themes of fate, free will, and time. Some of the acts that are planned, and one thing I would say about The Under is you've also got, which is kind of really interesting, is a series of acts that have been named that are coming. And I think this is the kind of thing that you're going to want on the 19th of November when this lands, to catch it early, to catch those bits where they say there may be some live acting in this as well, which is very interesting. So here's the name of some of the acts that caught my eye. Aaron Markin sings Wet Food. Sweaty Eddie does his laundry. Shasta, go pop, thrusts exponentially. That one's for you, Rowdy. Everyone's favorite animatronics, the lame divers. Sean Spetta takes it slow, and Apple Pie Bundy has some special friends he'd like you to meet. This one certainly, I can see why Ken's all hyped about it. It seems like such a weird concept, but to bring it from Tenderclaws, the people behind virtual reality, you know it's going to be quality. So
yeah, and I think it was like Road to VR tweeted out this week. They were concerned because of like the name and the kind of style of the game that it wasn't going to hit or get like the kind of reach out there to get people aware of the game. But hopefully we're going to keep drumming on about it, because I think it's one of those ones that you can't really miss. A bit like Wolves in the Walls that I talked about at the beginning of the show. It's going to be one of those kind of cinematic experiences that you can't miss in VR.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's one of those that we're going to have to. I can't wait till we have like shared experiences. It's kind of like VR chat days, where it's like, okay, how did we each encounter it? What was the bit that we had? All right, a couple of tips for you. Those were the main games that are launching this week. A couple of tips for you for those who like freebies. Obviously, the BBC have been doing a great job putting out VR content for some time. There is a title coming out that looks a lot like, Steam's doing it again, a lot like Hellblade. And I don't know this show, but some of you might. Brittania. So Brittania VR, Out of Your Mind, looks a lot like Hellblade meets Blade and Sorcery. And it's kind of 360-degree and interactive VR experience from Sky, for those of you who know the television broadcaster. This is the first thing I've seen from Sky, if I'm not mistaken. There's a few things you can do in this. Again, I'm not going to shortchange it. It's a freebie on Steam. Go grab it if you can for PC VR headsets. You get to forge a Roman coin. So you actually get to pour the molten metal and forge a coin, understand that process. And then you can take that money and buy some more peanuts than you originally would have been able. Yeah. It looks pretty enticing, to be honest. And for a freebie title, I didn't want this sneaking away. It landed on the 7th of November. And for those of you who don't have money in your wallets, thanks to Prezi time, then here's a good one. So again, that was Brittania VR, Out of Your Mind. If you haven't played Hellblade, Brittania VR,
Brittania, okay.
Out of Your Mind. Great name.
It looks like they're making use out of like volumetric stuff too.
It is volumetric. Yep, it's volumetric in there as well. But the interactivity surprised me, and I was like, it's a freebie and it's interactive as well. That's pretty cool.
But you actually played it yourself?
I have not played it yet. Can't wait.
It sounded like you did though.
Oh, well, no, I always get into, I have kind of a habit of going through the good and bad reviews, no matter what it is I'm looking at. And you can take a lot from that. So it's rather...
But seriously though, like what would we be without BBC in the VR space? I think they have done a great job for the last few years.
The Berlin Blitz experience that they did was amazing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Oogie, of course, the Beetle.
I was so lucky. Oogie the Beetle. I still feel bad about that. My daughter handed me the Go, and she'd been playing this. I have no idea what the controls were. Okay, I feel like I've been Beetle shamed.
Spacewalk as well.
Spacewalk is stunning. If you want to really feel out of body, that's a great one. All right, last two little bits. I Expected to Die last week, we mentioned, has a new DLC that's out and available for you called Operation Death Engine. Great name. Reminds me of Intercosmos, which was a game where you were re-entering Earth's atmosphere in this cosmonaut spacecraft.
Sounds like a James Bond movie again.
It does. Yeah, well, they do have the whole James Bond kind of motif. So you're stuck in this satellite in the sky. And what can I say, Mr. Bond? I expect you to die. So with that, the last final thing, for those of you with daddy issues, you'll be glad to know Vader Immortal Episode 3 is coming out November 21st. So look out for that one next week. We have plenty to play this holiday season. So as it's cold outside and you won't be going out playing Minecraft Earth, no you won't, play some good VR titles instead. All right, and that's it. Warm. Back to you, Mike.
I'm so looking forward to Vader Immortal Episode 3. So looking forward to that.
After Episode 2, totally.
And it's the right timing because the movie is coming out soon as well, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. That is true.
And obviously, I'm like hyped about Star Wars generally right now because of like the Mandalorian. And the Jedi, the Fallen Order, and I'm like I'm in it, So
in it to
loving it. Yeah. I actually enjoyed Episode 2. But yeah, let's get into our main topic then, and that is of course Stormland and our hands-on impressions of Stormland. And I think there's only 2 of us that actually played it, right?
You can count me out. I've not played it yet.
Yeah.
Same here. I was on holiday, so.
Me and Rowdy representing. So we will avoid any spoilers. So don't worry if you haven't played the main story yet. We'll stay away from any sort
It's
of
so
story.
sad that he dies, though.
Don't listen to Rowdy. Don't listen
Well, he
to Rowdy.
dies in the beginning, no?
Thanks, Rowdy.
That's
You
the
saved me a
concept
lot
of the
of
game.
So basically, how many hours have you put into the game so far, Rowdy?
Well, I mean, I played it through for the first 2 hours, and then I reset my save and I started again. But I haven't finished like the main storyline, so it's like 4 to 6 hours, I think, in that the main storyline is. So I haven't finished that.
Okay.
But I have played single player and multiplayer both.
Okay. So I put like 12 hours into the game so far. The main story will take you roughly around 6 hours to finish, and that is like the main story campaign. After that, you kind of go into like what I call the end game state, which is like a loop of content that is basically endless, but I'll get on more into that in a bit. Like Rowdy said, you can play the game solo or co-op with a friend. However, you have to unlock a specific side mission to unlock the co-op part of the game.
Weird design. Again, I said it again. Like I thought it was strange with the Asgard's Wrath, where you didn't have the shield unless you did like a side mission. I find it again like weird. I mean, it is a fairly obvious side mission, but still, like playing multiplayer, like it took me, and it's not early in the game that you get it. Like
it's not that
like,
early. No,
it's about 1 hour and a bit in.
Yes,
until you get it, which is a long time.
Yeah, especially if you're planning to play this with a friend. Yeah. So just if you know that up front, at least it will save you some frustration in that sense. But the rest of the story campaign you can play cooperatively if you want to, and obviously all the end game content is available to play up co-op as well.
So one thing before you move on. So if let's say if you don't want to play that whole part and you want to go straight away, could you technically just get the save file from your friend and just skip the whole thing?
In fact, your friend can invite you, even if you haven't unlocked it yet.
Oh,
and
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I think you can play it that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. But let's talk about the story itself just very briefly, because I think, I really enjoyed it. My time with the story. I think it's an intriguing story, and I was genuinely interested to find out what happens and how the story unfolds. And I don't know if that's gonna your the same experience that you've had with it so far, Rowdy.
Yeah, I think like the storyline itself, it's really well developed. I've heard a lot of people complaining about it's too short. I find it a bit funny that we're now calling 6-hour VR games single player that have a multiplayer aspect and have an end game, that we're calling that a disappointment, especially considering the price of it, since I think 6 hours of Stormland, even if that was it, would still be fine for me. Also because it just looks gorgeous. The voice acting is really well done. And it's a good story. Like up until the point that I've gotten so far, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yep, I would totally agree with that. And what I particularly enjoy about Stormland is like the core gameplay mechanics. Like it's a fun game to play regardless of the storyline and everything else. Like, there's so much variety in terms of what you do as this robot. You can jump, you can climb, you can glide, you can slipstream across the clouds. There's so much stuff that you can do, and and your body as well. Like when you look at your body, everything works as it should. The elbow positioning when you rotate your wrist and stuff like that is there. You look down and you've got a full robotic body.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is really cool.
I think in terms of like immersiveness, it's one of the best games out there, because up until this point, and I haven't seen that being highlighted that much, I haven't encountered a single loading screen. Which I think is a very cool thing, how they managed to accomplish that, since it does feel like it's an open world. Some people might say it feels a bit empty. I can get that, but considering I do consider it quite an accomplishment. The way that they work with not using a load screen is because if you go from area to area, you need to go into some sort of a lift thing, like an object that flies you out, and you've been shot in the air, and like everything turns white because of the clouds. So it's a gradual process, and then when you come out of the clouds, you land on a different area. And I think that's a very smart way of doing this, so you don't have to show a loading screens? Is that something that still kind of bugs me with Asgard Thread, especially if you don't play it on an SSD? It's just the loading screens that take ages. And to then play a game like this, where there is not a single loading screen at all, I find that impressive. And it feels really immersive that you're actually there, because you're not been taken out of that experience the entire time. So my hats off for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of like, the gunplay, because you've got a large variety of weapons to choose from, different upgrades as well, and different upgrade paths. So you can really sort of tune the game to your own personal play style.
That's exactly very cool, because you can play it completely different from someone else. So I do think that like the replayability of this kind of game is quite big, and also the amount of like because I haven't even gone through all of the modules yet that you can like get on your body alone. I'm not talking about the guns yet, but just like the modules that you can place on your body by collecting points in the world. It's a very intricate RPG system actually.
Can I interject and just ask a question about the one concern I had from the earlier demo? When you have the guns, right? I mean, Rowdy, I think you said you had the same problem where you were ripping guns apart. Yeah. Is that still there in the game? Like, did you find that it took some time to either learn that, or is that somehow resolved?
It's still there.
It's still there, but I haven't up until, I don't know why, but I haven't up until this point accidentally ripped the gun apart. I have lost one gun, which I didn't holster accurately, but it's less of a problem now, also because you know where to make those guns now. So
yeah. Just to kind of explain this, particularly for audio listeners, so all the weaponry in the game has an alternative firing mode, and that is activated by grabbing the weapon with two hands. So you could dual wield two weapons, and they'll behave differently if you grab it with two hands, and it'll kind of almost transform slightly as well, which is a really cool visual effect. But the problem is when you go to grab the second handle of any given weapon, it's kind of close to where you'd grab it at the top to pull it apart, because you can break down enemy weapons to recoup some ammunition, but also some alloy, which you can use for crafting later on. And it happened to me at least a dozen times. And normally in the heat of combat, when things were getting a bit crazy, I would whip out another gun, go to grab it with two hands, and then it would just fall apart in my hands. And I'm there standing there weaponless against a horde of enemy tempests that want to kill me. So that was kind of frustrating, but it's just kind of one of those things, you kind of get the feel for it after a little while, but still it did happen to me every now and again, even near the end of the game when I was still hours and hours in.
Yeah.
Another annoying bug that I encountered, which was similar to this, was that there's a great mechanic in the game where you can actually remove your arm and upgrade it on a workbench. And the problem was that when I was grabbing my arm to pull it off, I was then automatically grabbing the gun that was on my back holster, even though I was nowhere near it. And that was kind of frustrating as well. But again, it's kind of a little quirk in the system.
I mean, with games like this, especially considering the scale of it, there's going to be, I mean, I encountered bugs as well, smaller and larger. But nothing really that took me enough out of the experience in order for me to say like, oh, this is not a good title. Because all of those things are, they're going to be fixed.
Yeah, and nothing game breaking. Game breaking. And like, Rowdy said, you can play the game how you want to play it. If you want to stealth your way into an enemy compound, you can use your visor, which you tap the side of the headset and it kind of activates this visor mode, which kind of like gives you highlighted enemies, and they then their position, so you can kind of sneak up on them.
It also allows you to have that because it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Robinson the Journey, where you need to build up your flora and you need to scan different kind of objects. They have that in there as well. So with your visor, you can start scanning certain objects, a certain kind of thing, in order to update your codex, which I think is also a cool mechanic if you're more into the lore of the game.
It's a horrible thing for those of us who are completionists. And if you've ever played No Man's Sky and gone planet to planet, just scanning every object, you're like, oh no, another one that I got to scan. But it does have this sickly loop of you feel good when you've scanned everything in your immediate vicinity.
Yeah. And the thing about the scanning in Stormland is that each item that you scan has a narrative behind it, and you get a little audio narrative.
Oh, bit. That's really impressive.
Yeah. So that's kind of really nice.
The voice acting in general, just the amount of content that is there is It's fairly impressive, I think.
It is. And there's actually story arcs, like having spoken to the lead developer, the lead designer, Mike Daly, he was explaining that there's actually story arcs within those index scanning mechanics. So like you can follow a little story there if you scan certain objects. But yeah, being able to sneak up on the enemy Tempest and then kind of grab their power cell from behind, and then being able to store that as a like a health pack for later on your chest is really cool, really satisfying. And playing it cooperatively. So go on.
No, actually on the co-op thing, I'm wondering like that design, because we're talking about design. The only other game that I can remember was Dead Effect 2, that you had to beat like 5 or 6 levels to unlock co-op then. And then allowed you to play multiplayer.
Exactly, yeah. I remember that now.
Like, why? Like, is it so that you're not a noob? Is it because the systems are complex enough? Like, do you see that there's merit in that decision?
It's what we call extra playtime.
Maybe it is like Serge's tutorial before it.
I know why it is, but we're going to get to that when we go to the co-op section.
Okay. So we might as well just talk about co-op now then.
Okay.
Because I played the single, like the story campaign on my own pretty much. And then I played the co-op together with Gamertag VR in a lot of the end game state. And although he hadn't completed the single player campaign, he could join my game, and any resources that he earned during my game, he would take back to his game, but it wouldn't change the state of his game until he had completed the single player story.
Which is why the tutorial is single player.
Like a trust fund then. It's kind of like a trust fund, like whatever you earn gets held.
The thing is, my opinion on the co-op is I find it a little bit pointless. It's added in there, and I don't see really the value of it. Mainly that is because of there is not a real rewarding system, I think, for playing co-op. Since if you finish missions solo, they will not be brought over to the new one that you go into. So you're always going to be independent of each other in some sort of way or form. If you are playing co-op together and the story doesn't change, the storyline is still aimed for a single person kind of experience. So if someone needs to pick something up, there's only one person that picks something up, but you hear in both of you, oh yeah, thanks for picking that up, or like, thanks for doing this. Well, you actually didn't really do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't find it rewarding enough for me to say like, let's play it with two, because it's actually aimed to be a one-person experience.
And really, when you look at the original trailers of Stormland, it gives the impression that it's more than 2 players. It gives the impression it's 3 or 4 players. Yeah. And when they talk about co-op raids, you kind of have it in your mind it's a 4-player raid, just like in Destiny, for example.
Yeah.
And certainly when me and Nathie played it at Oculus Connect 6, we were kind of wondering what the heck we were supposed to be doing, because there wasn't anything that we had to do together. And it's the same now in the full release. There isn't any mechanic in there that you have to pull like a lever at the same time simultaneously.
Missions aren't built on 2 or 3 people.
Exactly.
But I think for me that kind of killed it straight away was when I jumped into Stormland for the first time with Mike. I was like, give me a high five, and his hand went straight.
Oh, that is so, yeah.
And I'm kind of like if let's say if they build something in there like you've seen with Echo, for example, where I could ride Mike's back and he could fly through the clouds and I could shoot these enemies and we could combine certain things, then it would have been a real co-op experience. But yeah, again, it's more
there is co-op, but it's not co-op. It's just playing single player.
But Oculus advertised it as a co-op. All these trailers, you always saw like another robot popping up that would take your hand and be like, hey, let's go on an adventure. So that kind of covers like the story, the core gameplay mechanics, and the co-op. Let's talk about the end game, which Rowdy, you haven't got to yet.
Nope.
So
I'll just kind of explain it because there's a lot to explain in the end game, and there's cycling worlds as well. So every week, I think it's every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern time, the world will cycle and reset. So basically, during the week, you have a mission objective, and your mission objective is to get to Terminus and defeat Terminus. And basically, to get to Terminus are 3 worlds.
Sorry, is that a place or a dude who's like really badass?
I'll get to that.
Okay,
yeah. So basically, there's 3 worlds which are known as strata, and they've got mission objectives in them. And the general objective is to open a cloud portal to the next world. and you have to do that 3 times basically in 3 different worlds, and this is where things start becoming a bit repetitive. So you get to that point, you've done it 3 times over, which is going to take you maybe a couple of hours. You reach Terminus, which is like the highest level in the Stormland of the cycle, which is a massive stronghold, a Tempest stronghold with multiple bosses and generators that you need to shut down. So you do that, you get to the top, you do all that, and you're like, okay, I've hit the level cap of this week, and that's it, job done, week done. And then you have to wait a week or until the Tuesday rolls, and then the cycle resets, and then all your stats, all the blueprints that you've earned, all the upgrades that you've earned get cashed in for an additional currency called growth, which then you use to upgrade your character even more for the next cycle. Okay, so the idea is that you do this 3 times consecutively in 3 weeks or whenever you want, but you got to do it 3 times over to get the proper end credit, if you know what I mean.
It's like repeating gameplay. And the problem is, and this is my major gripe with this game. Like I like, don't get me wrong, I love this game, and this is why it frustrates me more than anything else, because I love it and I just want it to be better. But sadly, that's not the case. Like, so the world repeats itself over and over again, and the missions to unlock the cloud portal on each world, which you have to do 3 times, like I said before you get to Terminus, is pretty much identical each time you do it. So you're doing this at least a dozen times to get the end game credit. So you're doing the same thing over and over again a dozen times to get to the end. So to make an example, if you ever play GTA, you always have these missions where you have to, steal drugs or something. It's always like the same thing, but one time you're driving a car, and then the next time it's a motorcycle, and then it's a plane, but it's always the same thing.
Exactly. So like in this case, there's like jammers that are blocking the cloud portal from being opened. But the thing is, they're spread across the map, and they're actually difficult to find, which makes the game start to get frustrating and more of a chore. And even in co-op, like me and Gamertag were getting super frustrated because we couldn't find these things, and we needed them to progress to the next level just to do it all over again. And I think that's where this game really comes into its problems, because it lacks the variety to keep people interested in the end game. And I think, other games that have like end game, like The Division or like Destiny, they have like a roadmap of content lined up for the future to spice things up and add events into the game, like what Fortnite is doing. If you look at Fortnite, they're really adding dynamic things to happen to the game world to make it more interesting and more exciting, and it changes all the time. And that's really important when you've got an infinite gameplay loop like this, that it keeps it fresh and exciting. But the problem is, because Insomniac was bought by Sony recently, they've kind of said that this game is done now. Like, they're not going to support it anymore in terms of future content in the future now.
But it isn't done.
But that's it. It's not really finished, in my opinion.
No, it isn't. If you build like a gameplay loop like that, then there is more to it than just... Yeah,
and I think for me, that was the most frustrating thing, because I loved the core gameplay mechanics so much. I thought, being this robot avatar was incredible. Like, the gunplay was incredible. Playing with co-op was fun, but, was lacking like the co-op elements that I really wanted. But what I really wanted was to go on this epic raid with like, 2 or 3, 4 people, and do something that was really challenging and difficult, like in Destiny. But
it's funny the combination here, because you're almost equating it to kind of like what we've had in like From Other Suns, right? Where you go on a mission with a few different buddies. And from the original concept of the game, like, it did feel like that's what we were kind of promised and that we were going to get, and it feels like that's been curtailed. The thing that's really interesting is that both of those games have an issue with controller capture zones and item management on your body, which is just like, is there a better way for these games to do it? Have we seen another game do it the same? But question in chat for you, Mike, here is, in your opinion, like, is this something to buy now, or is this something to kind of wait for a sale on? Like, what's your impression of the game at the moment?
So I think as a package, it's still totally worth the asking price. Like, the single player campaign is really nice. And I think, if you just go in with that mindset that's probably the part you're going to enjoy the most, then I think just go for it. But just don't think that you've kind of got this endless content, because I think you will realize quite quickly when you get to the end game that it just becomes very repetitive, which I think is a real shame.
What about you, Rowdy? What's your stand on it?
Yeah, I think, I haven't played the end game. Also not, I like kind of finite titles. So something that I can jump into, finish, and then it's like, it's done. That's the kind of person I am. But I do feel like the content that I've had so far, it's good. It's really good, actually. It's one of the better ones that I've played this entire year. So I do think that it's worth the price. Of course, it's a little bit unlucky that it's come out together with Asgard's Wrath, which is touting like a 40-hour like kind of experience. But it's a very different kind of game, and I can't say which one of the two I like more, because there are aspects to each of them that I really, really appreciate and really like. And it depends on what kind of game that you really like to play. So, I do find Stormland worth the price.
Yeah, and I think, like for me, like I was so kind of confused about how this could happen, like how there wasn't that much content at the end, that I ended up even reaching out to the developers. I said, look, can we just jump on a video call, because I need to ask you some questions, because I just don't understand. And it kind of broke my heart even more by doing that, because I got to meet the guy Mike Daly, super nice guy, obviously super passionate about Stormland and had worked on it for a long, long time. And then for me to tell him that I was kind of like a bit frustrated with the lack of variety in the content in the end was a bit crushing. I could see his soul crush a little bit, and my soul was crushing as well, because I didn't want to, I wanted more from the game as well. But
I mean, this guy's also a part of a machine, so he can't change anything about their,
But you just get the impression that their time was cut short with this one. It had way more potential, and I think had the Sony acquisition not have happened, I think we would have been in a different place right now.
And you also need to, like, the thing is, Stormland was supposed to come out before the Rift S launched, so they have also been pushing it, and I don't know. It sounds like personally, I like to buy games based on future stuff that they add to it. So maybe they do have some other stuff they will launch later down the road, but I would have bought this if they actually had a roadmap saying like, okay, this is our gameplay cycle. We can explain why we made it this way, and this is what you're going to get. And that's that story you don't have right now. That just stays in the clouds of Stormland.
I do think that in terms of like visual parity and just general quality, this is a standout title though. If you like the first time that I jumped in there, which was at OC6, just the visual clarity and how nice everything looks, it's amazing. It kind of, like I said before, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Robinson the Journey, because it's also like, it's like kind of jungle style, only with no dinosaurs, unfortunately. But this is the kind of game, and I saw it in chat as well, like that I want to like show to people. Like I want to like say like, hey, put this on. This is what VR is about. You can go anywhere you want. Just do whatever you like. And I do like that a lot about this game. And the way that the world looks then, it's
another question for you guys. The climbing was one of the things, again, as somebody who likes climbing in real life, one of the things that I really enjoyed about like the freedom to just like latch on wherever you wanted and kind of scroll vertically. Is that inhibited in the verticality anywhere? Is there something that like stops you, like bird spikes that prevents you from climbing really high? Or
not that I have encountered.
No, because even when you come across places that have like an overhang, for example, you can fling yourself off the wall and then grab them.
And by the way, that looks really cool in co-op when you see your friend climbing, like his legs are like wiggling a little bit. Like it looks hilarious as well. I mean, if you want to have a good fun and you want to laugh a lot, then I would play it in co-op, but that's probably not the right reason to play co-op.
But talking about the visuals just quickly, because it is very demanding. Like, I played the game on ultra settings and it was pushing my system to the max. Like, I've got a 2080 Ti and an i9 processor, and it was like just about coping, which is pretty impressive for a VR game.
I think that if we look at this year, because I think Defector, Stormland, and then also
Asgard's Wrath.
Were the big titles that Oculus was constantly like their parade basically. I think Asgard's Wrath was of course the most surprising one. A very very good title. The Vector was a fail, and then Stormland is meeting somewhere in the middle in that sense. Although I really wanted Stormland to be this crazy kick-ass co-op experience. And it's nice to hear that the single player is what you should go for. But this year I still haven't gotten to that point where it's like, wow, I'm playing this with my friends, and this is what I want to play next week, and this is what I want to play next month for a while.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the biggest shame about Stormland is because, like I said, I enjoyed the mechanics so much, and I would play more and more and more using those mechanics. It just needed some more variety in the mission content near the end, and I would have been much more happier with it, I think.
Because I think the baseline, the template is there, these robots and the whole story around it. It lends itself to become this great co-op experience, but it isn't.
Yeah.
And now they got bought, so the whole Stormland idea, concept, the whole lore that could have happened for the upcoming years got thrown out of the window.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sony is super smart because it's a great
harsh though.
It's a great studio, and I think they did a they made a very smart decision on that. But
I wouldn't be so harsh as to say that it's thrown out the window or something. It is still a great title. I think Mike has said.
No, it's not thrown out of the window. It's for the future, we're not going to see more Stormland because they get bought by.
I get that, yeah.
So
but I don't want people to think that the game in itself is not worth purchasing at this point because the content in the end game is not good enough.
Well, for the co-op, that's what I hear right now. It's the single player is great, but Oculus has advertised this game as a co-op title, and
I personally didn't have that impression that much. I know
Watch
from
the
trailer. Yeah, I know from the trailer there's this scene, but the first couple of minutes of the trailer, or the first biggest part actually, it's about the guy who dies and he needs to find parts and needs to go and fight the Tempest. So I was expecting more of an experience like that, and it is more of an experience like that. And I know in the later part of the trailer you get the other robots where you fly with, but for me that wasn't immediately the impression of it's going to be co-op. I did think I'm going to find other robots that I'm going to rescue or whatever, and they're going to join me in my mission. I mean,
but the one thing for me that really attracts to the title, kind of like Nathie was saying, is I do want a kick-ass co-op game. But actually, I find that even if a game isn't great, the social interaction for me makes the game tenfold better, because what you will experience with another human while you're engaged with that content that's been carefully crafted is unique. It's timed. In other words, it won't happen again. If you played together again 4 months later, the same interactions wouldn't happen. So for me, I think just having that door open, Asgard's Wrath, can't play co-op. Stormland, you can. So for me, if I was hanging between the two, I'd be if I've got a buddy, hey, why don't we get together and play Stormland? I'm gonna have a great time with that. You know what I mean? Because it might even if it's an inferior game, if you were to compare the two, and I know you said they're pretty on even footing from the story. Having a friend in there is great, so I got to applaud him for that.
Yeah, I do. I know in my earlier statement I said, I find the co-op a little bit pointless, but I mean, having someone in there, of course, is always a nice experience because you can share what you have. But what I mean with that is kind of pointless is that there's no really rewarding system or cooperative elements that make it worth it to be playing co-op. If I'm talking about a co-op game, I'm thinking, for example, Left 4 Dead. I'm thinking Portal. Those that are real co-op experiences because there's no way you can play those as a single player experience.
No, I agree. As long as it doesn't get frustrating. I mean, I played the Arizona Sunshine DLC with Mike. But after a while, I do get bored of the gameplay. And you can have as much fun with a friend you want, but if the gameplay is frustrating, it takes over the actual social experience you have.
It became a meme in our case.
Yes, we were just what are we doing? What are we doing with our lives?
So overall, I would say Stormland, an amazing game with some incredible core mechanics that I would love to experience more. I think it's got a great solid 6-hour campaign, but it's kind of hampered by the lack of variety in the endgame content. That would kind of be my final summary of Stormland.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been rambling on for like 2 hours now. So if you've got any questions, now's the time. I'll sort of remind you of the show times quickly. So chuck your questions in the chat. Can be about Stormland or any of the other topics that we've discussed in this week's show so far. So just a reminder, this is a weekly VR, AR, and MR talk show, live streamed every Saturday on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitch. You can also catch the show live in VR using Big Screen TV. I'll get in touch with the developers of Big Screen and find out what the deal is this week with what's going on there. Hopefully it'll be fixed for next week. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. Also check out the audio version, which is on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify.
Oh yeah, and leave a like too on this fine video.
And good luck to all you. I won't be here next week. I'm going home home to Ireland for a weekend, so you all have a good time without me. I don't know what you're going to talk about. I think it's VR Days, right? So I'll have to catch up on that.
VR Days, yeah.
All the great clickbait. What are all the secrets of VR Days? Can't wait to see your thumbnail on that, Nathie.
Oh,
it's going to be nice.
All right. It's going to be interesting. So... let me see. What do we have? I love your 2-hour shows. You make my hour commute much better.
Yeah, people have been saying that, actually. It's something that we've taken on board. Although we did initially want to go back to like an hour and 20 minutes. I think 2 hours is actually working out nowadays.
Take it on board. Mike's like, we got to get back to 1.5 hours. The rest of us are like, nah.
It's never going to happen anymore. It's never going to happen anymore. Do you know why? Because people get so triggered nowadays on the topics that we're talking about.
That's why we're F.Reality.
Seeing Nathie's little head, the veins in his head pop out, and he's about to
even his hair starts like glowing. Like, you see that? Like his ear is glowing through his headphones.
As long as it flows 2 hours, then it's great. That's what Ray Pope says.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be 3 hours next week.
It's just like I totally like I understand why it's fun to listen for 2 hours, but it doesn't reflect our.
I kind of like Buck's suggestion. We should do a 24-hour charity podcast.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
What are we gonna talk about?
How many likes do we need, guys?
I would die.
24,000. 24,000 likes. We can do a 24-hour.
I'll be sick that week.
I can't.
Mike's like, I'm not hosting that. Just need a month to prepare, right? So, not too many questions. Someone said, so D1360 VR said, Payday 2 new DLC. Does it work on VR? I don't know. Don't know if any of these gents know. Chat, do you know?
I think usually it just all the DLCs that they bring out just automatically work, right?
Yeah. Even the H3 podcast DLC works in VR.
that we bought, and then we didn't really do anything with it. Yes.
Exactly. What does that mean? You can play the characters from H3 as masks?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
You can play Ethan and Healer.
Not as masks, as actually
as the actual characters. Yeah,
so is that our end state then for this podcast? Is like if we can get into some Payday DLC at some point in the future, we've made it.
We've made it, exactly.
Speaking of making it, even though I abandoned Twitch really, and I only do 2D stuff now over there, we have 96 followers on the Twitch platform. If there are 4 willing souls out there who'd like to bump us to 100, it'll make Zim's bleeding heart feel a little bit better.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing. So Ray Pope is also asking if Stormland works. He says Stormlands as well. Stormlands, if it's playable with Revive.
Yes. Actually, that was something I was going to mention. There is a patch now for Revive. I posted a link to the video guide which shows how to install the patch on my Twitter. So if you go and check out my Twitter feed, I posted a little link to a YouTube video which shows you how to do it. Enable the patch on Revive so then you can play it using the Index or a Vive headset or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, and then last but not least, people want to know if we go to PAX East. PAX East, where is PAX East?
That's Boston.
That's the one we did last.
Boston
yeah,
one.
So
sorry, there's so many PAXs.
We do actually. We did a special episode of our podcast from PAX East last year. That was I think it still is our most viewed video. So it's like go check.
We're not sure if we're going to the next one or not though. We have no idea.
Don't know yet. It's February, isn't it?
It's like if we get invited, we go. If we don't get invited, we don't go. That's what it comes down to.
Well surmised. Okay, so that's the show this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about Nathie's experience at VR Days, where he got hands-on with the Varo Retina display headset and the new Pimax 28K headset, along with some amazing Black Friday deals and much, much more. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Until then, have a great week in VR, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
I'm not pressing stop. We're just going to keep going. 24/7.
24